Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome back to Honest About the Irish, brought to you by yours truly, B-Man is Mad. Okay, so Notre Dame improves to 4-0 with a 41-13 win over Wisconsin in the Shamrock Series over at Soldier Field in Chicago this past Saturday. Now, if you weren't able to watch a game, let's say you're a casual college football fan, let's say you're a Notre Dame fan, you're at a wedding, you're at work. I don't know why you would be at a wedding. First of all, weddings should be banned during college football Saturdays between September and January. Every wedding planner should have a calendar and understand they know when the college football season is, so not to plan a wedding on a Saturday in the fall. But let's say you were at a wedding and you were at work or whatever, you were doing some yard work. It was a beautiful weather in this area of the country this past Saturday. Let's say that you missed the game. Let's say later on you checked your phone and you saw that Notre Dame won 41-13 over Wisconsin. And if you know a little bit about football and you understand what the experts are saying, and you've watched Notre Dame, you've seen them struggle on offense and struggle running the ball and not getting momentum, you're probably thinking, wow, Notre Dame must have really woke up. A 41-13 win over Wisconsin's defense. You're probably thinking maybe Notre Dame made some adjustments. Maybe Notre Dame's offensive line is getting some steam here. Maybe Notre Dame was able to run the ball. Maybe Kiss Tyree and Kyron Williams figured something out and blew the game open early, and Notre Dame never looked back. But folks, that would be misleading. That's a word we hear a lot about today in 2020 and 2021. But that would be a misleading claim there and a misleading story. The reality of the game was that it was typical Notre Dame offense of 2021, struggling in the first half, only having -2 yards of rushing in the first half. Little inconsistency with play calling, little inconsistency with first down plays and passing and run. Let me go over a stat with you that really left me scratching my head, and I liked what Notre Dame did here on the first drive of the game. It was 9 plays. Out of the 9 plays, 8 of them were passes, 1 of them wasn't run. Notre Dame fell short and stalled out, and they had to punt the ball. Wisconsin took the ball down the field and eventually took a 3-0 early lead. But what I liked there was 8 passes, and it was a positive drive up until Notre Dame ran into a couple penalties and ran into to Wisconsin's good run defense, which caused some losses. And of course, Notre Dame was sacked on one of those plays in that drive. Going into Notre Dame's 6 sacks total. Notre Dame was sacked 6 times. I believe that's over 17 times that Notre Dame has been sacked in 2021. That is very concerning. What I liked about that drive was that Jack Cohen looked very, very consistent with passing. He was able to get the ball out. He still looked around the corners every once in a while, looked confused and got hit. I know it's very fast. It's like a building coming down on you when that defensive line is coming after you. I understand Wisconsin has a good defense, but I just wish Jack Cohen was a little bit more assertive. But he did look more assertive on that drive, but they stalled out. Jack Cohen up until halftime was, where is the stat here? I wrote it down, was 14 for 25 for 152 yards with a touchdown. That touchdown to Austin Jr., which is a great catch. Of course, it was reviewed, but it was held up and it was a touchdown. So some positives coming out of Jack Cohen, but unfortunately he got injured because he was sacked 6 times. Tyler Buckner had missed the game and he was sat out because of a hamstring issue that he had against Purdue the week prior, 2 weeks ago, which will be this Saturday. So, you know, you at that time Notre Dame was tied with Wisconsin, and Wisconsin had the ball. They went down the field, kicked a field goal. Notre Dame had a turnover. It looked like the momentum was changing for Wisconsin. Wisconsin could not move the ball at all in the first half. At one point, Wisconsin was 0 for 7 on third down conversions. Now, Notre Dame's defense played very well in this game, especially the first half. They looked to be more aggressive. They looked to be getting to the backfield much quicker. They looked to be getting to the quarterback much quicker. They're causing a lot of confusion with the quarterback on Wisconsin and causing a lot of haywire stuff to be happening for Wisconsin's quarterback to make poor decisions, which would lead to an interception. And Notre Dame did that 4 times, 3 of those times in the third quarter going into the fourth, and we'll get into that. But I was very impressed with Notre Dame's defense against Wisconsin. But when Wisconsin took that 13-10 lead and Jack Cohen was hurt, I was thinking to myself, and I know a lot of Notre Dame fans were thinking, it's been a struggle to score. We can't protect the quarterback. We can't run the ball against Wisconsin. Wisconsin's made some adjustments since halftime. Wisconsin has the momentum. The Wisconsin fans who were quiet all first half are getting into it. What are we gonna do? What are they gonna do? How is Notre Dame going to score? I was thinking this during the commercial break, and I'm pretty sure every Notre Dame fan was. All my friends who were texting me who were Notre Dame fans were saying the game's over. It's over. Notre Dame can't score. They can't run. They can't do anything. Jack Cohen's out. What's gonna happen with what this? Everyone was panicking. It's gonna be a long season. The offense line is terrible. Then Wisconsin kicks the ball off to Chris Tyree. Chris Tyree runs for 89 yards, sucks the oxygen, I should say, out of Wisconsin's balloon, and Notre Dame takes a 17-13 lead. Notre Dame, of course, never looks back since then. Like I said, Jack Cohen got hurt. Tyler Buckner was sat out because of a hamstring issue, and here comes Drew Pine. Now, I knew who Drew Pine is. He was a backup quarterback last year to Ian Book. He came in and did some mop-up duties. There was a couple plays where Ian Book sat out because his helmet came off on a sack last year. Or there was one game, I think it was against either Boston College or Georgia Tech, where Ian Book got injured. He sat out a couple plays. Drew Pine came in and played, so he had experience. But the way that the Fox telecast made it, Gus Johnson made it seem like that Drew Pine was this inexperienced rookie who was shaking in the spotlight there, the national spotlight, but he actually seemed calm. He did get hit a couple times, he did get sacked, but he seemed to get the ball out much quicker than Jack Cohen does. So that was a spark that Notre Dame needed. But then Notre Dame's defense took hold, caused 4 interceptions, caused 4 takeaways. Good defenses do that. Notre Dame's defense is getting much better every game. But the offense needs to work much better. Like I said, minus 2 rushing yards isn't going to do it. And you're not always going to be able to get interceptions like the Notre Dame did against Wisconsin. Now, Wisconsin, I think it's going to be a rough year for them. This is the first time that Wisconsin is, I believe, 1-2 right now. It's the first time that they're 1-2 since 2001. They went 5-7 that year. Not looking good for Wisconsin. They can't run the ball. They can't move the ball. That could be Notre Dame has a good defense, but they struggled against Penn State earlier in the year. In the season opener, that was a low-scoring game too, and they had the same problems there. They just couldn't run the ball. They couldn't score, and they had no spark. They had no offense. And they are going to play Michigan this Saturday. Wisconsin is. Now, Michigan's overrated. Michigan sucks. We all know that. Michigan barely got by Rutgers. They were a 3-touchdown favorite over Rutgers. So if Wisconsin goes ahead and beats Michigan by 2 touchdowns this weekend, it won't surprise me because Michigan sucks, and Michigan's the most overrated football program in existence. So college football is funny like that, but I don't think things are looking good for Wisconsin. A 1-2 start is not where they wanted to go, and they got a lot of work there to do on offense. But back to Notre Dame, I was very impressed with their defense. Like I said, just the aggressiveness, and they've gotten better every game since the Florida State game, and that's something they're going to need this weekend against Cincinnati. Cincinnati's a top 10 team. Of course, Notre Dame moving up a couple spots to number 9, so this is going to be the highlight game of the year on NBC. So I'm pretty excited about this game. I don't even know how to call it. I don't even know to make it a prediction. I don't even know what to say. It's just Notre Dame. It's a different story every week with Notre Dame. So we'll see how they play against Cincinnati this Saturday. Now, Cincinnati, I think, is a better team than Wisconsin. I think Cincinnati is going to prepare better against Notre Dame. Of course, Cincinnati did not play last weekend. They were off. So it's going to be a dogfight. They haven't even announced who's the quarterback. For Saturday, it's still up in the air. I haven't heard anything. Maybe I'm misinformed and I haven't looked yet. But they don't know if Jack Cohen's going to start Saturday. So we'll have to see what happens. I'm sure you Google guys on my who follow me can leave a comment below and tell me I'm wrong. And they've already made a decision. But since Monday night, yesterday, going into Tuesday morning, a decision had not been yet made. And it's Wednesday here. So Of course, Notre Dame goes 4-0. That's most important. That fourth win gives Brian Kelly his 106th win at Notre Dame, topping over Newt Rockne's record as the most winningest coach at Notre Dame. Now, say what you want about Brian Kelly. I know I've criticized him on here. He's made some decisions. He's done things. He's said things. There's been things in the past that he's done, and it just has made me criticize him, and likely so. He deserved it. But I will say this, since cooler heads prevail and you calm down, that Brian Kelly has actually been successful at Notre Dame. He has won a top 10 game on the road at Oklahoma. He's beaten some good teams. That was the first time Oklahoma lost in 2012 in a 10-year span, or second or third time they lost at home. They had an impressive home winning streak, and Brian Kelly disrupted that in 2012. That 2012 team was a good team. Brian Kelly took them to a national championship, and we all know what happened to Alabama. But folks, I mean, who's gonna beat Alabama? Like, who's been beating Alabama the last 10 years, or who's been beating Clemson when Clemson was on top? And Notre Dame just ran into Clemson and Alabama, except for the time Notre Dame beat them at home last year. But without Trevor Lawrence, Notre Dame beat him. But with Trevor Lawrence, who's going to beat those teams, and who's going to beat those great Alabama teams? Because a lot of teams didn't. And the criticism about Brian Kelly is, well, he could never beat a top 10 team. He could never beat he doesn't have a signature win. Of course he has a couple signature wins. That signature win in 2012 against Oklahoma on the road in a hostile environment, a top 10 team at the time. So that's one thing I would defend Brian Kelly on. He's taken his team to a national championship. He has taken his team to 2 semifinal games in the college football playoff round. And of course he got blown out both times. I understand that. But he's done more than most other schools have, except for Georgia and Clemson and Alabama, who've all been consistently good over the last 6 or 7 years. And Notre Dame has been more impressive than Jim Harbaugh. Brian Kelly has been more impressive than Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. And Michigan still gets all this love and all this positive press. And people are starting to figure out that maybe Jim Harbaugh is not that good of a coach, and Michigan's overrated. And I just laugh at Michigan fans when they tell me that Brian Kelly Notre Dame's overrated. I'm a realist. I know that Notre Dame is not at the same level as Alabama. Nobody is. Okay, Notre Dame, like I said, the criticism, well, they can't be the top 5 team or be the top 10 team currently. Well, they lost to Georgia by a field goal. They lost to Florida State in 2014, close but not cigar, but Notre Dame can compete with them. The problem with that is Notre Dame made dumb decisions. That game against Florida State, when Florida State was number 2 or 3 back in 2014, Notre Dame had a terrible offensive pass interference call. If it wasn't for that call, Notre Dame would have won that game. Not to sound like a Michigan fan and make excuses, but Notre Dame has been in these games, and I sound like a broken record, and I feel like a broken record because I've been saying this for the last year and a half, that Brian Kelly has taken his teams and has been able to compete with top 5 teams, but he always seems to come up short. But when he runs into Alabama, like 99.9% of teams, they get blown out, or they get their doors blown open. And I will give Brian Kelly some credit. He has done some good things at Notre Dame. He's recruited well. I have criticized him with coaching styles and things he's done and things he said in the past. But for once, I'm going to be positive about him. And, maybe one day when Notre Dame has a new coach and Notre Dame is not as good as they've been the last 5 years with Brian Kelly and they're worst, maybe we'll be left saying, you know what, we should be careful what we wish for. Because you never know. It's very hard to win at Notre Dame. It's very hard to recruit there. I don't believe in the weather thing. Everybody says that, well, it gets cold in South Bend. Well, folks, it gets cold in Ohio State. Okay? Ohio State's only, 2.5 hours away from South Bend. And last time I checked, it gets cold and it snows there too. And they've been really good. And they've won a national championship in the last 10 years. And they seem to be in the top 5 every year. Okay? So I don't want to hear that. That's nonsense. So if Notre Dame can find a way to get 5-star recruits in key positions like a quarterback, tight ends, running backs, receivers, pass rushers, then maybe Brian Kelly could turn this around. But with the Marcus Freeman as a defensive coordinator, like I said, and I've been saying for a year, this could start turning around with their great defense. And so far, their defense is getting better every game, and they'll be able to bring in those big-time recruits. So that is all for tonight. My hat's off to Brian Kelly on his 106th win as the most winningest coach at Notre Dame. Notre Dame takes on Cincinnati. Hopefully he'll get his 107th win over his former team, and Notre Dame will improve to 5-0. It's going to be a tough team. Wisconsin is a top 10 team at number 7. Notre Dame is number 9, and we'll have to see how this plays out. I'm not making any predictions. This is a tough one, folks. I'm just going to have to enjoy the ride because it's going to be an up and down excitement roller coaster with Notre Dame football this year in 2021. I hope you guys enjoyed today's show. Hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later on down the road. And of course, as always, go Irish.